I'm Dr. Kim Sage, and this video is about my journal series on addressing shame in Cptsd and why it's so important that we work on this core belief system that I am bad, I am unworthy, everything is my fault. When we have certain childhoods, this is oftentimes the core belief, and it really dictates everything else in our lives. And so I am creating this little journal series, which I hope will be helpful to you. It's a self-directed journal series. And if you want to check out the first two parts, you can go here and check those out. So if you are now tuning in today, we are going to talk about safe place and our trauma types briefly and self-compassion, because as we go further into these self-directed journal prompts, it's really important that you have access to tools that can help you when you feel overwhelmed, when emotions come up. And I, can't be your therapist in this regard, so developing tools in therapy could be really helpful for you, and or going on websites that talk about, how to do breathing and mindfulness and things like that. But I do want to share those things with you guys so you understand when I make those references what I'm talking about and why having these tools at your disposal is so important. So the first really next page of the journal, and as I said in other videos, it can be an art journal, a writing journal, a doodling journal. There really are no rules, and I don't want you to get into your super judgy self and go back and criticize your art or what you did or wrote. Try to be just present in the moment and connect with what you're feeling. And so if you just want to, cut and paste images, or you want to draw, as long as you're connecting to the prompt and material, that should be helpful, okay? So the first thing is that it is really important to know that shame is really often thought of as this sort of unfair, undeserved, inward self-blame. And the difference between shame is I am bad and guilt is I did something bad, is that in guilt we can sort of learn from it, right? And say, okay, I made a choice. I don't love that I did that. I can see it wasn't a great decision. And so I'm going to try to not do that again. Shame just goes straight to the core, and it says, no, who cares what you do or don't do? You're bad, you're worthy, and it's your fault. And so this is why I think it's so profound to work on this issue. And this is not like a one-time video thing. Most of us, it's a lifetime, or at least an extended period of therapy time or healing to work on these issues, because our go-to will often be, our automatic go-to is, oh, well, of course, that's because I'm just a bad person because my mom told me I was, or my dad did, or through their abandonment, I came to believe that, or their wounding. So trauma, because it's such a deep part of the human experience, and because it lives in our bodies, we have to do things to deal with the shame in our bodies. And when I say in our bodies, what I'm talking about is that at any given moment, our brains and bodies are scanning for safety, right? They're scanning for an assessment of the environment. Is there a bear coming? Is there a wolf coming? What's happening? Am I in danger? Am I not? And so our autonomic nervous systems, well before we're even aware of what's going on, our bodies are reading cues and experiences and taking in all the data at all times. And as our bodies are doing this, before even our cognitive minds catch up, our immediate assessment is, do I need to run away? Do I need to fight? Would it be better to sort of play dead and freeze to survive this, as we see animals often do? Or do I need to sort of like suck up to my caregiver or to this dangerous person and get them to be wanting me or liking me in a way that prevents them from hurting me? And this is happening at all times, really with everybody. It's really fascinating if you look at the research. And I'm going to make hopefully some videos on polyvagal theory, because that is the root of this kind of what I'm talking about. But because we get triggered and we tend to have our certain styles of trauma types, which are fight, flight, fawn, or freeze, and I'd highly recommend Pete Walker's book if you want to learn more about that. It's a great explanation, I think. We can have these combination of trauma types, and that's that whole other poly series too. But the root of it is our bodies are responding. And so as you begin to identify what your trauma types are, do I tend to go into busy and, busy work and doing and perfectionism? Do I tend to go into, not being able to move and more of a depressive state? Do I tend to sort of try to make everything okay with other people and so that they can see me as valuable? Or do I tend to, push back and get angry? As you're doing the shame work, you're going to probably notice that some kind of feelings are going to come up inside of you. And they may really encompass all of these. But whatever those feelings are, especially if they are feeling a lot, overwhelming, and or you're just not ready to go there today. Maybe you're having a feeling and you're at work and you don't have the time to uncork all of that because you have to deal with your job. You want to find mindfulness tools that give you the chance and ability to have some control, hopefully, over those feelings. So safe place, which is what this page is about, says my safe places are, and then I have how can I protect myself most, basically. I'm sorry, and then I have how can I help myself and feel protected, and I have 4 square breathing, safe place guided imagery, and the container exercise. So we want to begin to think about what is a safe place. Now, I also have a video, I made sort of an example here on safe place, but the idea is that it's a visualization exercise. You can actually Google safe place guided imagery exercises. You'll see lots of them on apps like Insight Timer, Calm, Headspace, on the internet. You can actually look at a script of a safe place imagery exercise and then take your phone and record yourself doing it. You can you could do all kinds of things. I love a woman named Bella Ruth Naperstek. I know that's an impressively long name, but she was a trauma specialist, and I first learned how to do these mindfulness things. I actually practiced on my kids. This was about 7 or 8 years ago. And I started realizing, oh my God, like I have more anxiety than I actually realized. And the way I realized that is that when you get into that calm, I'm going to slow down, safe, meditative place, you really get clear on when you're in that sort of jacked up, stressed out, 90 miles an hour and or super low, that parasympathetic, not functioning well versus sympathetic functioning we talk a lot about in sort of the psych world. And that really is just your body responding, like I said, from your nervous system perspective, right? Do I need to go up or down? And oftentimes those can be extremes. And so we want to try to live more in a place of balance and a place of well-being. And so safe place is an imagery exercise that basically has you, I'm going to give you this sort of summary here, visualize a place. And then you imagine yourself going to that place and taking in all of the colors, all of the textures, the smells, the sights, the sounds. So for me, I live across the street from the beach, and one of my safe places is this exact beach across from my house. And so I can, if I'm feeling stressed, I can close my eyes, not while I'm driving and not while you're driving, but when I'm in my bed or when I'm feeling stressed, and I start to imagine that I'm walking from my place over to this beach. And as I'm walking, I'm noticing, what does the air feel like? What's the temperature? It's the, like the perfect time of day for me. It's the perfect breeze. It's like kind of balmy, but not too warm. I can imagine the exact crevices and hills and the way the sort of Pacific Coast Highway lines up against this beautiful beach that I live nearby, right? So I'm imagining all of this. This is all in my mind. Getting myself to noticing the water. And there's a lot of other ways you can do this exercise. In fact, I'll probably make another video on a more extended version of this. But basically, it's a way to get yourself into a mindful awareness and calm, peaceful place. And so this exercise is to identify what your safe places are and put that in your journal. Now, I just took like a picture of a seahorse and some like butterfly stuff, but you want to identify what those are. Another one I have is this certain street in Paris. If you watch this video, you know how much I've talked about how much I love France and I love Paris. And there's just one part of crossing the water there that I just always think about. And so to me, I can just see it. I can see myself crossing the bridge over the Seine, and it's right near Notre Dame. And so that to me sometimes just transports me when I feel like I don't really want to be where I'm at right now. This doesn't feel good. or I can't fall asleep, I'm having insomnia. So identify your safe places and get clear on what those are. And like I said, check out this video and whatever other safe place imagery exercises you want. The next part is to identify the techniques that help you get calm. So we can't always use safe place. Maybe we need to do some kind of like breathing, like the 4 square breathing, where you breathe in for 4, you hold for 4, you exhale for 4, and you pause for 4 doing nothing. And you do that 4 times, right? So that's one I have here. So I have breathing, safe place, imagery exercise, and the container exercise. I made another video here on the container exercise, and I'll probably make a more expanded one. But really what that looks like is imagining a kind of container, and you can Google this one too, and you imagine there's a container of some sort and it's decorated in whatever fabric or stones or crystals or whatever you love, and you imagine opening up the top of the lid and there are little compartments, like when you go to the container store, right, and they have all those like jewelry boxes that organize things, and you imagine that in each little spot and box there is a place for the things in your life that you feel. Your hopes, your dreams, your sadnesses, your longings, your anger, your experiences. And so you learn to do this exercise. It's like a practice. It's like a yoga practice, right? You have to work on doing it. But I can get really stressed and say to myself, okay, I'm just going to imagine visually going to my container, opening it up, and I'm going to put this feeling in this box, in this little compartment today, knowing that I can always go back and take it out at a later time. And so that would be an example of mine. You could pick other ways, but try to pick 3 ways that you can, or 3 tools to access to help yourself feel more calm and to get mindfully in awareness when you're feeling overwhelmed, because as we go on through the journal and do more journal prompts, more stuff might come up. And so obviously you want to make sure you're safe to do things like this in terms of where you're at with your mental health. But assuming that you are safe to do your own self-directed exercises, that would be a good way to sort of like lovingly take care of yourself. That leads me to the next part of the exercise today, which is the concept of self-compassion. And I think because the root, and here's the page, how do I show my self-compassion and when should I be extra self-compassionate are the 2 prompts on this page. But when we have a lot of shame and an I am bad way of going into our minds about how we show up in the world, it's really hard to be loving and compassionate because we are deep in that yucky bodily feeling of being bad and unworthy and things being our fault. And so one of the ways to help counteract that is to learn to speak to yourself with loving, compassionate messages, much like I'll be discussing later, which kind of falls into reparenting, right? How would the ideal loving parent, and like I said before, pick one who's like a celebrity or a character or a movie or literary person or someone in real life. How would that person speak to me if they cared for me and my well-being? And what would they say? And Kristen Neff, I've discussed her on many videos on Kristen Neff's website called selfcompassion.org. Selfcompassion.org. There are some amazing exercises for self-compassion. I think she has about 8 on the resources or practice page. But Kristen talks about self-compassion having 3 basic components. She talks a lot about what self-compassion really is. And there are some major sort of key elements that really are important to understand. And they really are this, that we have to have or think about self-compassion versus self-judgment. Our humanity, and that we all suffer, versus our own isolation and pain. And this idea that being mindfully aware of ourselves and our pain is important as opposed to being overly identified with our pain. And so we want to see compassion as a loving, mindful way to love and care for ourselves, understanding that we are not alone in our suffering, that all of us make mistakes, we all suffer, and not to become defined by that, but to become mindfully aware of when we're suffering, what we're feeling, what we can do about it, and to not become victims of that shame or pain or judgment, but to sort of see ourselves in a universal kind of like sense of love and humanity. And so on her website, on her resources page, she has an amazing exercise I love, which I've talked about in other videos, but it's basically saying, like, when I mess up, I say something like, you know what, Kim, it's okay. Everybody makes mistakes. You're not perfect. you did the best you could, and you know, you're worthy of love and compassion. You're still worthy when you make a mistake. I mean, there's a longer version of that. But she has some great journal exercises and things like that. And so that really is what this page is about, which is how do I show my self-compassion and when should I be extra self-compassionate? So how I show myself self-compassion might be that I speak lovingly to myself. I try to not go into that, oh, you're so stupid, you're so dumb, why'd you do that? But into like, it's okay, you're not perfect, and you know, every chance is a chance to learn. Let it go, Kim, it's not that big of a deal. And you are worthy of making mistakes. It doesn't affect your value as a person. And also, how do I show myself self-compassion? I try to recognize when I need a break, when I'm pushing myself too hard, which I'm not the best at, when I need to just be able to do nothing and not be busying and trying to solve a million problems. That's one of my strategies, right? And so yours might be different, but I need to be aware of that. And then how can I love myself? I can say, you know what? It's okay to sit down for an hour and just watch something, trashy on TV. It's okay to not walk fast today. I'm just going to walk slow today. I don't need to push it today. I need to be mindful of my body and how I'm feeling. Now, I can't do this perfectly every day, nor can you, but that's the first part. The next part is, when should I be compassionate? And that really is knowing what your triggers are. When you tend to be more harsh with yourself, and that when you're in it, being aware that this was a tough thing for me and I need to make sure I continue to speak loving, kind messages to myself. So that's really it for the next page or two for the journal. The next topic will be dissociation and how that all connects to Cptsd and shame in our childhoods. And so now that we've got these kind of main parts with inner child and identifying triggers and coping skills and mindfulness, now we're going to go further into the prompts. And so I hope you will find them helpful, and I look forward to seeing you soon. Please stay safe and well in this just crazy time we're living in. Know that we're all worthy of more love and compassion. And so I will look forward to seeing you soon. And thanks for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and click the bell if you want to get notified when I post new videos. And yeah, I'll see you soon.